That was Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist and a student of natural law, and I'm still doing the formal consensus book. And I'm going to go back through these generic principles that I was looking at last week and just kind of talk about them more because I just think that we have to really consider these kinds of things seriously because I mean, what happened to us? What happened? What happened? It was incremental what happened, but it all led up to the lockdowns taking out any last bit of community that we had, and being locked down, at least in my community. I think what we figured out was that we didn't have to do as much as we've been doing, which is all bullshit, honestly, because we do, but we, for a couple of years there, we supposedly couldn't do what we used to do. I mean, I didn't quit doing what I was doing, but a lot of people quit doing the amount of getting together in community that we were doing, and we're still alive, we think, and we're still doing fine, we think. So we're not taking it as seriously as we used to. And something that my partner says to me is, he says that once you give up your values, it's very hard to get them back. And I would say it can be impossible to get them back. Like, we gave up our values of fellowship and community and patience and tolerance and all the principles that are on this list. And it's been impossible for our particular fellowship to get it back. It's just gone, and it's wreaking havoc on what we used to do. But nobody can really see that. They can't really see it because they're not really scrutinizing it. I am scrutinizing it because I'm used to doing a lot of service work every day, and that's what sustains me spiritually. But I guess they figured something else out that works for them. And so in trying to get the fellowship back in our communities back, it takes a lot of what feels like a lot of effort, which we did extend. I'd say maybe 15 years ago, this was our normal week. And I mean, I did a lot of stuff every week for many years, like 8 to 10 years. In fact, I moved to Colorado to do that from upstate New York because I needed to have that much camaraderie and service. What I would call, I mean, it's right here in this list: faith in action, and that's what we're trying to get back going again now. Dogs, go outside, go. Sorry. So, I mean, that's why I'm going to go through this list, even though I read it last week, and I'm just going to talk about my experience a little bit with it. Like, common unity. Okay. So common unity doesn't necessarily mean that we agree about everything. I think we could agree that we would like freedom for everyone. That's our unity. We don't necessarily agree about what's going on and what's causing the problems and what the solution is, but we do believe in freedom. And that's what, one of our inalienable rights is freedom to speak about and think whatever we want, as long as it doesn't cause harm to others. So our common unity would be to respect each other's differences while working towards freedom through showing up in community and being unified in common goals that will. I'm thinking about the barter market right now, like if we learn how to barter with each other using this currency that we're using right now, should that at some point become illegal, which I had a dream actually that it became illegal, and that we had to trade with beads, which that could happen, but if we take the time right now to learn how to barter, then it won't matter what we use to barter with. Beads. We could, I was thinking in my dream, we made beads out of paper, and then we just wore them around our neck. And then in the dream, it expanded to where like red was like, the 2 hours, orange was like 1 hour, yellow was like half an hour, like the currency, etc. And then once we got used to that, we could just trade with colors. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing where common unity right now, we can all be different in what we think about what's going on and what's happening right now. But we can be unified in supporting each other in creating a free economy within our own small town or the Front Range per se. And we can be the example for other communities. Like, for example, and when I say we, I'm talking about Boulder, because that's where the barter currency is establishing itself. And we're using consensus. And down the road, I foresee others wanting to know how that worked out, and maybe wanting our help to do it in other towns. So that would be common unity. Not that we agree about everything, because we're not going to agree about everything. We're all individuals. We're all different. We all have a different experience of life, and we all have done our own research and have drawn our own conclusions. And we don't have to believe what everybody believes. But we do need to be unified in our actions. That goes to the next one, faith and action, which is what I was talking about before. Faith and action is believing that what we're doing is right and then working at it, showing up, not falling for that false idea, which this is part of what happened during the lockdowns when we became, and when I say we, I'm talking about my experience with the community that I was involved with before I am in now. We basically just fell apart because I think there's a prevailing idea underscoring laziness, which is like that if I don't show up, it'll be fine because somebody else will show up. But that's just not the truth. If I don't show up, then I won't be there, and that'll be one less person that's there. I have to show up. I have to commit and show up to everything. If it's what I truly believe in, I can't cop out. I mean, yeah, there's certain times when, there's things that take precedence and I can't show up, but if I don't show up, then there's big holes in the group. And that has happened a few times in a few different situations. And I think that really took hold during the lockdowns. And that's what's happening now, is that we don't keep our word, or maybe we show up the first time, but then we stop showing up or something like that. And that's not faith in action, because my faith is that I believe that this thing's going to work, whatever it is, and then I'm going to show up to prove it into being, to manifest it, to be the physical presence that embodies the spiritual principles that are necessary to bring it into fruition. Even in the face of, you know, what doesn't look like it should happen. I mean, I'm out there right now looking at spring, right? The trees don't go, oh gosh, it doesn't look that good out here, so I don't think I'm gonna shoot out my new green leaves. No, they're just, you know, making spring happen as usual. Nature, even if the air's polluted and there's chemtrails, and nature still pushes forward. Faith and action. Sovereignty of the individual. So again, that goes back to common unity, and I've already discussed this, you know, but that's what, to me, formal consensus is all about, is it's keeping each person, respecting each person's sovereignty, inner monarchy, and learning how to work together as a group to get the group decision. And it's not a compromise. It's the spirit within each individual that's present that comes up with the best answer to the situation, the best answer for all concerned. And if there's less organization, like no Robert's Rules of Order or something like that, like you use formal consensus instead of Robert's Rules of Order, the sovereignty of the individual will be respected. And then it's possible for people to be the channel for the really cool idea, even if they don't know how to do the, you know, rigid structure. Personal responsibility. Well, I already talked about that, because that's showing up, you know, being there. Community, collective, committed. Well, committed, you know, I've already talked about that. Open and honest communication. We all have to be able to be open and honest in our communication, even if we don't like something. This has happened a few times, like where I feel in my guts that I don't like what's happening. And then I say to myself, oh, I'm not going to say anything. And because I just don't want to stir the pot or whatever. And then it keeps bugging me. And then dogs, out, go. Sorry, the dogs, go. Oh, well. The dogs are licking my hands right now. And then I just feel like I just have to speak up. I have to speak up. There's no way, you know, there's no way that I can keep my mouth shut, because if I do, then I'm just going to get pissed off and it's going to build up, and then I'm being dishonest. I have something to say. I've thought about it. I've made sure I'm not just, you know, trying to be a pain in the butt, and I'm not trying to just be oppositional, and I'm not just trying to be controversial. It's bugging me because we're not following our principles, so I have to speak up. And then I'm being honest, right? Because if I don't say my piece, then I'm lying. I'm lying by omission. I'm omitting the truth since I'm a participant. Create an open and safe environment. You know, I mean, I think we're probably doing that on social media, you know. We're talking about different things, you know, in a much, I think it's getting kind of more respectful, sort of, in a way. But it needs to happen face to face, where we create an open and safe environment face to face. But I think that when we're face to face, a lot of this petty stuff that comes up on social media just doesn't come up because we're fully present and embodied in our full spiritual beings, are present physically, and then it's just unnecessary. Conflict resolution. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We haven't really encountered that, but I mean, I think there's a few people in the group that know nonviolent communication, and we could just probably use it. I'm hoping. How we're doing it right now, like I said, is we're just talking everything out. And sometimes there's a healthy tension between us, but so far we haven't had a brawl. But I mean, that doesn't mean that we won't, because I've seen it. I've seen it with people who are really good, tight, on purpose and everything, end up having a brawl. But hopefully, you know, those people are parents and nursery school teachers and stuff, and they know how to get people to take a time out and work together, get back together, because that's how we have to treat conflict, I would say. Nonviolence. So that was nonviolence, you know, peace, nonviolence. I think nonviolence, I think we have to use that term nowadays because there's been so much violence. And there's also subtle violence, subtle forms of violence in a group where one person might, maybe that, you know, they might be natural leaders and they just might want to push forward, and then they just roll over other people, and that's this form of violence because they're violating other people's right of participation. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. The ability to resolve conflict without violence, I already said that. Living simply. Yeah, I remember that bumper sticker, live simply so that others may simply live. I think a lot of us here in America have no idea what living simply really is. I mean, come on. I just got so much stuff, and more stuff. So, but trying not to be attached to it, let's say, non-attachment. Non-possessive, honest, egalitarian. Egalitarian basically means horizontal communication. Everyone is equal in the group, and the group makes the decision, and there's a group process that needs to be trusted, and there's not a small group of people that are gonna come in and take over. Relationships with consenting peers. All students and teachers. We're all students and teachers right now. That's a good attitude. Unconditional support to those dependent upon us. Stewards of the earth and all her relations. So those are two tall orders that used to be part of my life, you know, on a regular basis. But like I said, we discovered as a collective that you don't have to really do it anymore because, you know, we're being locked down. So I get to do what I want. Unconditional support to those dependent upon us. That's a tall order, you know, but it is required. I mean, I think back to how I used to live, which was by putting other people's needs ahead of my own. That's how I used to look at it. I mean, there is like a sort of self-deprecating way to do that, that's not that. You know, someone said to me one time, they said, you have to put the oxygen mask over your nose and mouth before you can put it over your child's, which makes a lot of sense to me, you know, in the airplane. Because if I put the oxygen mask over their nose and mouth, then I'll pass out and they won't have me anymore. But I still need to put other people's needs ahead of my own after I've taken care of my basic needs. This used to be understood because we used to have common sense. And I think we've already discussed the common sense thing, but we don't have, you know, they have systematically destroyed common sense by making us not have anything in common, but you still have common sense and you can use your intuition in place of common sense. So, unconditional support to those dependent upon us and stewards of the earth and all her relations could be interpreted through intuition. And I don't mean interpreted, I mean, I should say, because that unconditional support has changed to where people can like give too much and then end up with nothing themselves, you have to use your intuition and common sense. But you can use your intuition in place of common sense if you don't have common sense. Meaning that I'm there for those people who are depending on me. I don't just bail out. It goes back to commitment and going the extra mile. I mean, you know, there's some really good things we used to do. We used to go the extra mile. We used to leave a place cleaner and better, in better condition than it was in before we showed up. And that's, I think, falls under the same type of idea. Stewards of the earth and all her relations. I mean, that's huge, right? It's so difficult nowadays to be that, but you can try to take it on, you know, shopping minimally and not falling for, like, we don't need a whole lot in order to have community. We don't need a whole lot. We don't need like any big tech or anything like that. We can think of the resources that we're using and where things are going to end up later, while we're making our decisions in community. Sustainable systems, social order based upon honesty and trust, nonviolence and self-empowerment, and equality and democracy. Equality and sovereignty, I would say, because that democracy has turned out to be a lie. An alternative society, vision, outbreak of peace, the hope and the future of society. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now, is we're creating the hope and the future of society ourselves. So next time I will be moving on into generic nonprofit bylaws, which could be just generic bylaws for a PMA or a trust.